thanks everybody so much for coming out. This is She Rocks It, one of our panel series that we do with the Women's International Music Network. And we've been doing these in a variety of cities across the country, giving women an opportunity to talk about their careers and their experiences and share that with you guys and take your questions and then have an opportunity to chat with you afterwards. It's hosted by the Women's International Music Network, and you can find us at thewomen.com, THEWINN.com. Tonight we had a partner who helped us get this together. It's Katherine Forbes from Music Biz Besties and Design the Rock. And also many thanks to WeWorks. And I'm going to invite Kaylee to just come up for just a second and share a little bit about WeWorks, who allowed us to use this space free of charge. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, I'm Kaylee again, and I work for WeWork. Just show of hands, who has been in a WeWork before, ever? Anyone? Awesome, so a few hands, very cool. So just a quick overview, so we've been around since 2008. Simply put, we provide office space for everyone from individual business owners, small startups, all the way to the largest enterprises in the world. Right now in Nashville, we have 2 buildings. You're obviously in one of them downtown. Our other open location is in East Nashville off Woodland Street. And we actually have 2 new buildings opening up October 1st, one in the Gulch and one on Music Row. So definitely want you to stop by when those locations open. If you guys do have any questions, whether for you've been working out of a coffee shop and you're tired of trying to find an outlet to plug your computer in, or you know someone that could really have a lot of value of working here in space, feel free to come say hey to me tonight. I'd love to give you more information, talk to you a little bit about what we offer, and be able to answer any questions. So thank you so much and enjoy.
Before we get started, I just want to mention that we have a raffle right over there, and I really want to thank Fender because they donated that guitar to us, which we're going to raffle off today. So please buy some tickets. Your raffle ticket, the money that we raise from that helps us to create events like this and other millions of events that we do across the country and in other countries for women in music. So let's get started. My name is Whitmore. I am the founder of the Women's International Music Network. I'm also a marketer, a journalist, a singer-songwriter, and all-around insane person. And now I'd like our panel to just take a minute to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about what you do in the music industry, and just share a little bit of your background. So let's just start here. We're going to have to pass the mic down, so, share.
Hi, my name's Findlay. I'm from England. I'm a singer-songwriter. I am self-employed, I have my own record label, and mum of 2, so I'm also a crazy, insane person. And I'm really glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Gloria Green, and I am a professor at Middle Tennessee State University. I teach music business, mostly on the live entertainment side, but what led me to Nashville was an opportunity to work at the Moyer agency. It was probably 14 years before the merger, and then I left after that, started my own company and worked that for a little while, but I've been in academia for about 8 years. Love it. Have a couple of my students out there.
I am Youmans. I'm a PR manager at Fender, which essentially means that I get to tell the Fender story, which is really awesome. And I'm also a professional vocalist and singer-songwriter based in Los Angeles. Hi, I'm Ashley Moyer. I'm the PR manager at an independent groups label here in Nashville, Rounder Records. And I'm also on the marketing team, so I do most of our outward-facing consumer messaging for the company.
I'm Katherine Forbes, and I have a business called Designing the Row. I design websites for musicians and small businesses. And I started Music Biz Besties, which I know some of you are here for that. It's a female community for women in music as well. Thanks for
Ivey. I'm a music agent at APA. I actually grew up here in Nashville, kind of watching all the cool stuff happen around the city and thought, man, it would be cool to do that one day. So I actually help with our roster for any kind of corporate and private and special events. So anything that's not like a regular routed tour, I get to help take a part in looking after the clients, and it's cool. Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna start down there, so. Told you, anytime. Anytime, we'll mix it up. So I want to jump right in and talk about maybe what has been, a surprise, something that you didn't foresee happening in your career, and how did you react to that, and did you gain something positive from it?
So, I think that for me and a lot of young people out there, there's a lot of pressure put on you to have everything figured out at a really young age. Everything's really competitive, especially with constantly comparing yourself to other people with the internet. You have to have great grades that get you into your good college, and depending on what college you get into, that depends on what kind of career you're going to have. I feel like there's a lot of pressure to have people figure things out really early on. So for me, the first job that I had after college actually was not something that I was really passionate about, and it was kind of devastating because you're like, oh man, this is what I got hired to do, this is what I'm supposed to be good at, how do I pivot, and how do I come back from this? And so I think once you kind of take a step back, and I had a lot of really great mentors that sort of walked me through the process of, well, what are your strengths, what do you like about the job, how can we figure out, what else can we figure out that you could maybe pivot to do? So I don't know, I think that the first big surprise in my career for me came when this amazing job that I finally landed after I graduated, which started out to do on its own, wasn't actually what I thought I wanted to do. And like figuring out how to, figure out the next steps was a really big deal. But I'm really happy where I'm at now. It took a while, it took a year to find another job, but I can see that was the first big project.
How about you, Katherine?
So I majored in piano performance and music technology in college, I had no idea what music business was, but I knew that coming to Nashville was the plan. So I came here and just had lunch and coffee meetings with people, and 3 weeks later, 3 people emailed me the same email saying that someone was looking for an intern in artist management. I had no idea what artist management was, and I showed up, got the internship, started the next day, and that lady is basically the reason why I have my own company.
Awesome.
I would say my biggest surprise is how my role has expanded. I started out as a publicist. I'm still a publicist, but what that entails now is changing every single day. My role has always expanded. So going into it, I didn't think that I would be that interested in the marketing side of the record label, but I feel like I'm learning something new every day. My role has grown from not just pitching media partners. I run our social media accounts, I handle our newsletter, I do bluegrass radio, which is a PR function at Rounder, and just learning new stuff every single day I think is interesting, and it kind of teaches me to be adaptable in whatever environment that you're in.
So we were talking about pivots earlier, and if I had told younger me how many pivots I would make by the time I was 30, I think that she would have had a little panic attack. So I started in the music industry when I was a preteen teenager as an artist, and worked in musical theater as well. And then I decided to go to school for journalism. I've always loved writing, I've loved telling stories. And after my first year of college, I was offered the chance to write for LA Times Media Group and the Orange County Register, which are probably the 2 biggest regional newspapers in Southern California. And I got to write on music, which was really awesome. Music and a few other things, theater, dance, visual and performing arts. And got to interview some of my idols like Martina McBride and Wilson Hart. And I had a slight panic attack during the interview with Anne. She's a really great person. So then after that, after being a journalist for 3 years, I decided that I wanted to move more to the marketing and PR side of the business, and worked in TV and film PR a little bit, and then found my way over to Fender, which has honestly been such a great move for me. And Fender is such a legendary and storied company, and we get to work with incredible artists. And I've feel like I'm really at home because I'm getting to tell the story about something that I'm very passionate about. So, queen of pivots, who knows, what's in store. I love, just not knowing what's going to be next and just going with the flow and doing what feels right.
Wow, yeah, it sounds like everyone's talking about pivots. So I have to go there because I really didn't even know what a talent agent was, and I was familiar with the Whitmore's agency only a little bit. But my first job out of school was in PR, actually, and I went back to school to get my master's in that area because I'd seen a program of an entertainment publicist. And it was all like one of those evening e-news kind of things. And I was like, that looks really cool. But then the thought of going to LA, which is where it was like, no, I don't think I want to go to LA. So I actually started in state government working as a public information officer. And what was really cool about that, and one of the things I want to encourage you is you never know who knows who and how things connect. But as my interest in music grew, I started volunteering for a local promoter. I'm from South Carolina, so I started volunteering for a local promoter in the Carolinas. And through that kind of got the courage to apply at a number of places that I thought I was pursuing PR for. And no one got back with me. So I took a road trip here to do some coffee dates. And along the way, just stopped at the Whitmore's agency. Crazy, I don't necessarily recommend it, but I was fortunate enough to, the HR director at that time, and this was during the 90s, the HR director at that time had been a public information officer in California. And so we connected immediately when I started talking about what I was doing, which at that time was in that area. And she said, well, you hear a lot, we'll keep your resume on file, but we don't have an opening right now. And 6 months, almost to the day, I got a call out of the blue from them, and she said, I thought you were going to move to Nashville. Why are you still in South Carolina? I'm like, who is this? She called me at my job. And so, anyway, there was an opening. I flew in, I interviewed for it. I truly tell people I got it the old-fashioned way because I didn't know anyone there, but it was a connection that had absolutely nothing to do with music, but had everything to do with what I was going to be doing for that particular position that did come available. And then from there, I worked my way up to an agent. So I would say you never know what you might be doing that you think, oh, this isn't what I went to school for, this is what I want to do, that might lead to the right place at the right time where you're ready for it. So.
Spooky, that really connects with what I was going to say as well. It's certainly about the networking thing and the connectivity that's available amongst us. This dress I'm wearing is called the Secret Sari dress. I'm the co-founder of the Secret Sari dress campaign. This little dress is made out in West Bengal in India by women who are vulnerable to human trafficking. My cousin owns a company that goes out there and sets up these women in business and trains them. And she decided that it was a perfect dress to launch in the music industry and to connect with women in the music industry who could wear these dresses on International Women's Day and have cool pictures of themselves taken and encourage their fans to buy these dresses. And interestingly, what I think all of us found, that the campaign went really, really well. We had some amazing people, Floyd Jansen from Nightwish and Alyssa Whitefoot from Arch Enemy. And these ladies, they wore these dresses, and what it did was actually not just empower the women in India that we were actually trying to help, but we all connected with each other, and we felt this energy that was sort of moving one woman to woman to woman to woman. And actually, in the end, that's how I ended up hooking up with Laura, and that's why I'm here. This was only in March. So yeah, the connectivity thing is really important, and you know, and going with the flow actually is so incredibly important, because you never know where you're going to be from one minute to the next. So stay open and just connect and network.
I think my biggest surprise is that I am not a rock star right now. I really thought that was going to happen. No, but in reality, it's interesting because like the whole Women's International Music Network it just happened. I don't know, I guess you could call it organically. I had no idea it would grow into this huge organization. We do a huge event in January, the She Rocks Awards. But what's really interesting for me is I've gotten way back into making music now that my kids are older and songwriting and have projects that have really like taken off in that regard. So those old dreams can come back, you know. Anyway, let's keep going before I get emotional. Let's think about your current job. How is the landscape and what you do change? You know, how have you had to adapt? I think, I forget, maybe Ashley touched on that a little bit. Do you want to jump into that for us, and we'll start there and we'll pass it over.
Yeah, so public relations has definitely changed a lot, even in the last 5 years. You know, it's kind of unfortunate, but a lot of these storied publications that have been around for years are closing their doors, and a lot of stuff is moving online. So kind of we have to pivot. And I spend a lot more time making sure our artists' social media numbers are where they need to be and making sure their online presence is good before I'm pitching these media partners, because that's a huge thing that they're looking at now. Just as an example, Paste will not do a session with an artist that has less than 20,000 followers on Facebook now, and that wasn't a thing 2 years ago. But I can understand, you know, as the industry changed, a lot of it is click rate and ad dollars. So we have to make sure that our artists are enticing online and have that presence before we go to these media partners and say, like, oh, will you do an interview with them or have them in for a session? So that's one of the biggest things that has changed in the last 5 years. Also, even recently, I have some journalists that are actually friends that I know I can call on the phone, but just a funny anecdote, like sometimes you call people on the phone and they act like you have two heads. It's very email oriented now, so I'm always trying to do my best to make sure, like, if a writer's in town that I've never met before, that, you know, I hit them up and I'm like, let's get a coffee, or because those in-person connections are so important when everyone lives online now. I'd say those are the biggest changes that I've seen in the last few years.
Being a publicist too, I think the only other thing that I'd add about changes in the industry is just the 24-hour news cycle that we're in. There could be a journalist that emails me at 2 a.m. while I'm sleeping and they need something urgently. And thankfully we have a wonderful PR manager in the UK who's actually out here in the audience, and he can sometimes step in. But journalists never turn off. They need things yesterday. Our phone is always on, and we're always checking email. But that's what's exciting about it. It's a very fast-paced career, and right, there's no such thing as vacation. But what's really exciting is that you never know what's going to happen next. You're always meeting new people, and that's what it's all about, right? Yeah.
I just want to add to that. So if any of you guys are going to NAMM, I'm actually going to do a workshop about PR on Saturday. I think it's at 10:30 in the morning because I do PR also. And yes, it's changed, but I'm also a journalist, and from the journalist side, it is so brutal too. And you're right, because a lot of times I'm writing at midnight. I'm like posting something at midnight because it's the only time I have to think about it without a million distractions. So I'm apologizing in advance to any publicists that I'm asking for a photo.
Laura, you're great. You're great, Laura.
Anyone else want to add anything about their careers and changes and transformation?
When I started in artist management, the company was outsourcing email newsletters, and today anybody can do their own email newsletter. So when I jumped in, that's how I got into website design, because I was able to add value, like, well, I can code that for free as your intern. And so that was 8 years ago, I guess, having to pay an outsource for email newsletters and websites, and now it's very easy to DIY.
When these questions first got emailed around to us and I read this one, my first instinct was kind of, like, I work in I'm an agent, right? My first instinct was kind of like, I don't think so. I don't know if technology's really changed what we do that much on a day-to-day basis over the past few years. And listening to you guys talk, I feel like it's kind of twofold. Like, on one way, we have an artist who has a song that is at TikTok that people are freaking out about and it's exploding, and now this artist is selling tickets. and it's huge, and we only just now heard about them. So there are some things that are quantifiable that I think data helps us figure out. But then on the other side, as an agent, being a resource to our clients and giving them advice, relationships are not quantifiable in that way, and it's still very much a relationship business, and it's hard to put a dollar amount on relationships, and it's hard to, oh, this is worth this much, when you have people that have been in the business that have the expertise that can advise artists on what the next steps may be in their career. And so I feel like from an agency standpoint, maybe like ticket sales and data collection and like looking like, oh, this person has Spotify streams in this market, maybe they'll be worth more tickets, like yes, that's helpful. But as far as like being an agent and advising your client, I don't know if there's been technology that's really changed that much. So that was my take.
Anybody down here want to add anything?
Well, I'm not an agent anymore, but now I teach talent agency at MTSU, and I had to jump in and learn new things because technology, you're too young to remember this, technology has changed how the booking world works. We did not, how many of you know what year Google, 97? Okay, so I came here in 95, so we didn't even have Google, and we didn't have any, means to get online like we do now. Polestar wasn't online, and the heads of our department were it was so expensive. We had one Polestar subscription, and Rick Shipp held on to it for dear life. And any of you who've been in business a long time, you know who he is. But, so how we book tours has tremendously changed because we didn't have all of the means. There was no Indie on the move, and there was no Jam Bass, and there was no Polestar Pro, and all the other things that now makes it a little easier to book. And if you're an indie artist, there's so many ways that you can find dates now that you really couldn't in the 90s and early 2000s. So if I were to jump back in, I would never jump back in, but I would be screaming because it's so different. But there's so many other, technology has helped in terms of finding dates and keeping up with how an artist really performed, not how they say they performed, how many tickets they really sold, not what they say they sold.
I think, I can only echo what some people have said about how social media has changed the landscape in the last sort of 5 years, certainly for me. And there's just, for anybody that's thinking of starting out and promoting themselves as an artist, I think it's important to know that there's a huge amount of work that needs to go into it, and it's seriously competitive, and it is unfortunately all about likes and follows, and it wasn't so much so, but also that we have to really look after our social media presence, and that we're kind of in the hands of these companies as well, really, to put our presence out there.
So I don't want to date myself, but when I started out in PR, we were typing news releases on a typewriter and sending out slides to the media. We had a fax machine, but there was no internet. And I got my first personal computer, I typed, DOS. So, I mean, you don't want to go way back that far, because that's like, we know things have changed. But I do feel like there's a lot of pressure in marketing to use like analytics, which is a blessing and a curse. Because sometimes you're like, no, my gut knows like what we should be saying. And if you just follow the numbers, you're going to just do what you did before. So if you want to be a true market leader, sometimes you have to take that leap of faith, and there are companies that do that, that succeed, and there are companies that do that fail, but at least they try. So anyway, it's a different animal now. I don't know if I like it more. But anyway, okay, so let's talk about, I'm going to jump a little bit. So this is a question I like. We learn a lot from our failures, and I wondered if any of you are willing to talk about something that you failed at in your career and what you learned from it in the long run. Oh, Heather. No, there's two Heathers, sorry.
So
she's ready.
I think that we can say, I'm answering this more from the performer perspective. There are musicians and actors and performers out there that you know, their batting average is so small. They're out at 100 auditions and they get one. And failure is a part of making it in this business. And being able to accept those failures and to stand back up and keep going. And I found that even with PR, we may pitch dozens and dozens of journalists for a story, and we may not get a response, we may get a decline, but you're just waiting for that one person to respond back and say yes. And so, I guess with that said, my advice is just to keep going. You know, failure is a part of this business and is a part of life, but the only way to success is to keep standing up over and over again until you get what you want.
Anybody else want to bear it all?
What? I can just add to what you're saying on the PR front. It's like, yeah, I don't know how many emails I send out a day to journalists, and I might get 5 responses back out of hundreds. And you know, adding to that too, a big part of my job is crafting the story for our artists, what we put in the press release and what's going to entice people to pay attention to them. And you think like, oh yeah, this is it. No one's like this artist. It's going to be a hit. And then you're like, oh, I'm not hearing back from anyone. We need to pivot here. So to your point, just keep going, keep trying different things. Like eventually something will hit.
And I think failures happen every day, all day, really. I heard Katherine, who is the founder of Dept, say about when she was starting up the company and she didn't have a lot of money. She said, "Oh, great, thanks. I learned for free. I'll be back tomorrow." Just when talking about failures, like it's inevitable if you're going to grow and learn. So I just tried to learn to embrace if something doesn't work out and figure out why and keep going.
I have a short anecdote, and it's not very heavy. It's like light failure. But I worked in hotels in college, and I was on the phone all the time taking reservations, and I thought I was really good at phones. And then my first internship after college was at Vector Management, which is a huge, really reputable management company. And I said, I'm really good at phones. You should put me on the phones. And they were like, you got it. And so like the second day, I'm on the phone, someone calls, and I cannot understand what they're saying. I don't know what their name is, and they're yelling at me, and they hang up, and they call back again, and I'm like, I'm sorry, can you spell that? And then he goes, I'm Johnny Van Sant, give me my manager, damn it. And I was like, one moment, and I like, just press hold, I'm like, oh, they're like, yeah, he's a Leonard Skinner. And I was like, oh my God. And so they took me off the phones, and they never let me back on. And I thought it was meant to be. I was like, I got the perfect internship. This is amazing. It's like I'm crushing it. And from then on, there was a line of 4 girls before the phones got to me. They all had to be on the phone before they let me pick up. But now I'm really actually good at phones, and I know how to take a message. And you know, I got over it. But at the time, it felt really devastating, and it wasn't. So sometimes it's just keep going, and it'll be fine.
Anyone else like to share? No, yes, go ahead.
Similarly, I think there's a certain amount of maybe bravado that you walk into a role that you think you're able to fulfill at every level. And I kind of got a bit of a shock when I left my old band that I was in for 13 years, and we had a really good profile. We were touring constantly. We traveled the world, and I decided to go solo. And I had a child of 1 year, and my partner was like, oh yeah, I'll help you, I'll manage you, and I think what I was naive about at the time was that any inspiration or creativity that you have or any reputation, that's only a tiny percentage actually of the hard work it takes to keep pushing through. My first release did really well. There was a really good response to it, but I don't think I had any idea of the work that it would take to keep that momentum flowing, and keep the buzz going. So, I've used that experience in order to build the foundation for the album that I've recently just released this month. So, yeah, it didn't go to waste.
You learned a lot. I'll just share really quickly about myself. So for 20 years I worked at this company called Korg USA, keyboard company. And and I was the marketing manager there, and my boss, who was the marketing director, left the company, and there was a lot of other things going on I won't get into, but I was like, oh, my boss left, like I should put in for that position, like I should become the marketing director. I have an MBA in marketing. I had been at the company for 20 years. And so I interviewed for the position, and they decided that they didn't want me to become the marketing director, and they brought somebody else in from outside the company to be the marketing director, and I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I really like questioned my identity as a person and as a worker and all these things. So I decided to leave the company because it just felt so wrong for me there. And later on, it was the best thing that ever happened to me that I did not become that marketing director. It's how the women came about. I started my own company. I moved to California. I accomplished so much that I never knew about myself and what I was capable of, because I was so defined by my job of 20 years, and I was pretty young when I started there. So, you know, that failure turned out to be the door that opened for me. There you go. So let's talk a bit about, I don't want to call it the elephant in the room, the women in the room, the gender in the room. So I'm wondering, have any of you had any challenges in your career being a woman, and how did you address those, and what did you learn from those experiences? So anybody want to talk about that?
I'm trying to think how to say it without using names.
You don't use names.
No, I won't do that. No. Rule 1, don't use names. It's the beginning of burning a bridge. You don't want to do that. No, well, when I was at Whitmore, one of the challenges, and again, this isn't now, but in the 90s and early 2000s, and one of the challenges I had as a woman was some of our male artists did not want females riding on the bus with them. And we're hearing some of that in the news again in other ways, a lot more recently. And then I don't like this trend that's happening, but we had a lot of male-oriented bands, and so what that meant was my male colleagues. It was like the golf course. You guys are too young to understand the golf course analogy, but it was like the golf course all over again. My male colleagues could ride on a bus with a band, and that's your time. The venue is not really time where you can really get to know your artist, because they are focused on getting on stage, doing the show, getting off, doing the meet and greet, and getting the heck out, right? So the bus time going point A to point B to C is your time that you can have to spend with your artist, because as an agent, you spend most of your time in the office, not on the road like some people might think. And so I'm trying to think how to say this. I know I lost an account with the promoter because of a male colleague that was hanging out, doing drinks whenever they came to town late, and I just didn't want to do that as a female. This particular promoter was married, and I just didn't think that was going to be a good look. But also not being able to have that kind of time with some of my artists, even artists that I was a responsible agent for. Whereas I knew some of my male colleagues were jumping on the bus and they were having that time. It's probably changed a lot since then. I don't know. I see some heads going like this, so I guess in some respect, but in the corporate world, we're starting to see a little bit of that come back around, and it's unfortunate because, doing business, and especially when you work directly with the artists, your time for the relationship building is the personal time, and when they're touring, that's the tour time. When they're in town, they're usually writing or in the studio or sleeping or want to be as far away from here as possible in between all of the above. So yeah, I do know that I wish I had more opportunity to do that, and I don't know if I could have built more with that.
I would have to say, from the artist perspective and from the PR perspective, being a singer and a publicist, I come from a very female-dominated space, which is really great because I find it really collaborative and creative. On the artist side, I really haven't had anything happen to me personally. I just think it's because being a female and a singer is more expected. I do have friends that are female drummers and really great drummers at that. But when they walk into a room and they sit at the drum set, their reactions are interesting, but they're really great and their talent speaks for themselves. And but I would say that working at Fender, I'm definitely the optimist on the panel, or one of the optimists. It's just really great, everything that we're doing for female artists. I don't know if anybody in the room saw this news, but back in October, we released some research that we did, and we found that 50% of new players are women for guitar, which was really great, and it was something that really caught on with media. And I was just so proud to go look on Twitter and see that one of my favorite bands, which is Haim, I love those sisters, were tweeting about it, and they were so excited. And there were a lot of female artists that really rallied behind this research with us. So for every negative experience, there is a positive, and there are good things that happen for women in this industry. It's not to say that, you know, there isn't more progress to be made, but I'm very excited with the progress that Fender has been making.
I'd have to say, overall, sometimes it's a respect issue. I mean, I approach every person as they deserve my respect until they give me a reason not to respect them. But for women, I feel like we have to work a lot harder to earn that respect from colleagues. You know, I've gotten sideways glances from people when I'm backstage at a show, like, oh, are you a girlfriend? Like, no, I'm actually their publicist and I'm here working. So that is one challenge that I've seen. You know, as women, we have to work harder to prove ourselves as professionals than men do oftentimes. And I don't really know the answer to that except for just going out and keep kicking ass at what you're doing and prove them wrong.
I don't know if I have a story that I can name that's like, oh, this person did this to me. And I do have a group that's all women in music, but I'm really just about embracing being a woman and letting that be powerful for itself.
This is such a loaded question.
I had a job a few places back before where I'm at now, where a lot of people that were the same level as me were getting to travel and cover shows. And it was cheap because two guys could come together and, you know, share whatever, hotels, buses. And then I was working on a lot of really cool projects, and I approached them and was like, hey, you know, I should be able to do this. And, you know, I was kind of met with, it's going to be really expensive because you're going to have your own room, and we don't know about that. And I'm like, well, wait a second, like, I'll stay in an Airbnb. That's cheap. How about that? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, because then you're there on your own. And it's like, I don't know who ruined it for all of the women out here who messed up for us. But I felt like at that company, I was constantly trying to prove, like, no, you can trust me. No, it's fine. I'm worth A, B, C, and D. And so that was something that was really tough. You know, I grew up in Nashville. I always thought it was a pretty progressive city for the most part. It had a cool art scene. There's a lot of cool music. And then I got into the industry in Nashville, and it was kind of an old boys club. And that was kind of what I was met with. So I think that it's on a company-to-company basis.
All right, hang on to that microphone. I'm going to let Ivey use mine.
I think that I can see that the balance is shifting, and I don't know. I think there's a lot of norms that we have accepted, just got used to, and I think it's the awareness surrounding conversations like this that will actually be responsible for the shift in that balance. I think, you know, a lot of men and women act a certain way just because we've gotten used to something, we've gotten a groove with the way things are, and it's definitely being shaken up, and it will take certain extremes to kind of reset that balance. But I think if we just continue to be aware, and you know, I can even see it in my little boys, the way that they're being taught is completely different to the way that you know, even my generation and beyond were taught. So, you know, there's a lot more sort of gender fluidity. They don't care whether, you know, there's names banded around the playground, and I think times are changing. It's positive.
I'll just share one little thing. And then we're going to take some questions from you guys, so think about that. So when I was at Korg, I also did marketing and PR for Marshall amps and Vox amps. We were the distributor of all those products. And, you know, often I was the only woman in a room of 20 guys. And I was leading the meeting usually because I was a marketing manager. And lots of stuff happened. And I'm not gonna lie, it was good, it was bad, it was broken, it was everything. It's crazy stuff. But the most interesting thing that sort of sticks in my mind was I was at a party one time later after I had left the company, and I was for some reason talking about amps. And I was talking about Class A and these controls and this whole thing, and somebody overheard me and they were like, who is that woman who knows all that stuff about amps? Like, and I think I got a client from that because it was like, wait, this is so cool that there's a woman who knows all this stuff. And I was like, that's an advantage for me because there are more women now who do marketing and PR in the musical instrument space, but at that time, like, there was hardly anybody who was female who was, you know, talking about specs of keyboards and guitar products and sort of knew all that. And so that was kind of a positive thing for me. For me, it was just normal because it was what I did all day, every day. But I feel this positive energy in groups of people like this and you guys, and that we're out here trying to lift everybody up and not be negative and not dwell on the negative. But I want to invite you guys now to ask some questions, and if you would come up, I'll let you use the microphone so everyone can hear you. So does anyone have a question they'd like to ask of the panel tonight? Don't be shy. Yeah, come on. Don't be afraid, we don't bite.
Hey, so my name is Ivey. I'm 20 years old, from Cleveland, Ohio, and this is just kind of piggybacking off of that last point that you made. As a female of color in music, I've run into a very special brand of frustration. It's as though there are days where, you know, some people want to test your last note, and some days they use it like a jump rope. I could tell you some horror stories about being left in a Nashville parking lot at 2 a.m. because they found out that I was a girl at the competition. And it's just come to a point where I've had to start making different decisions about my career, about my college, about what I'm going to do, based on what I'm allowed to do within this industry. So at home, I've started like a small studio out of my house, and I'm working with girls and people of color, just trying to cultivate this conversation and this advocacy. But as someone who's a member of a generation that is looking to create change, both in a political forum and now in this one, what can my generation be doing to address this? Not just to create positive feedback lives, but what can we be doing to mobilize ourselves in a way that our voices can be used, and that our thoughts, our opinions, and our desires can be heard?
Okay, once again, who'd like to speak?
I meant to say it in what I said before, but I think just getting out there and using your voice and your creativity, and actually leading by example, like just being it, just be it, and let people see that, and then inspire others to be that too, and seek mentoring from people around you that have similar challenges, and yeah, just keep going.
I was going to say something about that earlier, because there are other challenges being not just a female in the business, but being a woman of color in the business in Nashville, especially. And I'm not knocking Nashville, but in terms of the expectation is that you must be here. If you're not interested in urban or gospel music, then the assumption is that you can't work in the other areas, you know. So it can be very challenging. One of the things I would encourage you to do is, you're doing it now, and that is being involved with organizations that are diverse, and there's a couple of different women's organizations, so that you can have a voice. I mean, I've been trying to get some of my other friends to become a part of Women's Business Association. Another types, this keeps going in and out. other types of events, when conferences come, be seen, doing the work, succeeding at the work, and then invite friends alongside you to do the same. Meet people. Do you have a business card? Okay, take your business card everywhere. You should be handing it out to everyone that's in here. And go to more events. And the more that you're seeing, the more that you're learning, the more that you're doing, partnering, collaborating, then your work will start speaking for itself. That's not to say that we don't have the challenges still, and there's no excuse for anyone to leave someone in the parking lot in 2019 because they weren't expecting a female or a black female. But unfortunately, that still happens, and it happens at the corporate level, and honestly, it happens in academia. So I write down the only black female in our department, and one of only 3 in our entire college, and that's pretty sad. So I'd say if my boss was sitting there, she's an advocate of it as well, but I haven't seen action as much as I'd like to. So yes, I would encourage you to keep going to events like this and find out about other events where it is a diverse crowd, whether that diversity is gender or racial or culturally, and just meet people.
I just want to applaud you for just going out there and creating your own opportunity. I think that that's something that's often overlooked, and I have a lot of respect for people that do that. So good on you, and continue to do that. It's really, really great.
I just want to say, like, when I started the Women's International Music Network, it's hard. It's a lot of work. Like, I do this as a side project, which is insane. When we do some of the events, we're spending literally a full-time job's worth of time doing the work. But somebody's got to do it, right? So if you feel called to lead, you can lead. You can be a leader. And I'd love to talk to you afterwards about it. Okay. We need leaders. All right, who else? We could take maybe one or two more questions. Yeah, come on up. Step a little closer to me, because I want to make sure that we're getting this.
Hi, my name is Samantha. I'm 18 and I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. And my question for the panel is, as someone who is young and more on the technical side, as I'm running front of house and backline technicians working on the equipment, I really resonated with the fact that, when you see a woman walk behind a drum kit and you have that level of shock, you see a woman walk behind front of house and every guy in the room was very, very confused. My question is, how do you recommend seeking mentorship and seeking guidance in areas that are less prominent as someone who's not an artist? Because I've had experiences where, even as a writer, I've done a pitch and was received feedback and that was great, but then I was asked, what do I want to do? And when responding that I do not want to be an artist, I've been constantly told that there's not a place to be in the industry by artists in the industry. So my question is, what do I do?
You're talking to the wrong people. I'm just going to make a comment and then I'm going to need you guys to comment. I mean, there are organizations for women specifically in audio and production, like Sound Girls and what is it, Women's Audio Mission. So definitely join those organizations. They're really active and they do a lot. And there's a lot of opportunity with them. Like they actually do like mentorship programs where you can actually go out and work with them. So that's one suggestion I have for you. But what else?
I'm hoping that those people that you're talking to are on their way out, because a lot of people that I know are like, oh hell yeah, there was a girl drummer, like, oh that's so amazing, like that girl runs monitors and she's the best person I know. So I feel like, at least maybe in the younger generations of people that are running things, I very oftentimes actually see the opposite, and I am starting to, which is really great, see people who are excited about having diversity and more females and more, races and whatever else on the team, because I feel like people finally are starting to realize, like, oh, if I speak up, I'm like, yeah, that girl rules, like, it's not okay to be that way anymore. So I feel like I'm starting to see a change. So if you tell people that thought, I don't know.
Actually, so did you say you're working, do you want to work in audio or front of house or what? Yeah.
I'm currently running for a house.
Just because there's also like the Audio Engineering Society, which deals with that part of the industry as well, has a diversity committee that I'm on, and they're really focused on creating more diversity of all kinds, racial, gender diversity. So please connect with me because I can connect you with some people that work in that area, and they might have some other ideas for you too. Go ahead.
Well, just working in artist management with a female client, finding someone who could run front of house was already hard enough. And we ended up using a male most of the time. So I think you need to look at it as being in a great position that you can help the female artists. Just like the opposite of what you were saying, you can't go out on the road because it's too expensive to get 2 hotel rooms. Maybe you use that to your advantage.
Oh, good spin. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, this mic is coming down. Let me see, what time is it? Does anybody know? 7:25, we have 5 minutes. Okay, one more quick question. Does somebody else have a question? Over there, come on up.
Hi.
Everyone wants to see your face as you speak.
As a woman who works in the music industry, I and many of my female colleagues are often faced with a certain degree of imposter syndrome, feeling like whether it's internal or impressed upon us externally. Do you have any mantras that you've developed over the course of your careers that you kind of go back to if you ever experience those feelings?
Guys? Go ahead.
I don't necessarily have a mantra, but you're not alone in that. I think a lot of women actually experience that. We're not as forthcoming with our ideas in meetings. We feel like, oh, that might sound stupid, or, they're not going to take me seriously. I'm lucky enough to work with the majority of women, and it's a very creative space. So I think surrounding yourself with people who are going to be encouraging to you and push you towards what you want to do is really important. And a lot of times for me, honestly, I just step back and take a breath, and I'm just like, you are capable and you know what you're doing, and then I continue with my day.
Yeah, I would say just remember you're in that room for a reason, and for very many good reasons. And while I'm extremely proud to be a woman working in the music industry, there are so many other things that define me first as a professional, and hold on to those and know that that's why you're in that room. You're in there for your expertise, for your unique experiences, and those experiences mean a lot.
And I would just add, maybe this is a good closing thought. I stick my neck out all the time. It's terrifying. But I've done it enough times that I know that nobody died. If it didn't work, nobody died. It's okay. I didn't die. We did something else. We moved to the next project. They didn't love what I said. Okay. I'll say it to somebody else. I'll say it something else to them. So I would just try not to take everything too seriously. I mean, we're serious about what we do, but there's so much opportunity. There's so many things you can do, places you can go. So do it scared if you have to, but do it. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your questions. Thanks to our panelists. I want to thank everybody who donated online when they signed up to come here, because that really helps us to do events like this. I want to encourage you to buy raffle tickets, because we're going to give all those cool prizes away tonight before the end of the evening. I especially want to thank our volunteers that came and helped us set up and get ready for this event and check people in and are doing our videos and everything that we do. I want to thank them. And of course, I want to thank Katherine, again, Katherine Forbes, and WeWorks people for having us. And I want to thank Bonnie Blanchard, who is my director at the Women's International Music Network. who has put in tons of hours for this event and the other events that we do. And I want to thank our sponsor, Deacon's New South, who brought food for us. So we're gonna eat that now. And I want to thank Fender again for providing a great panelist and a guitar. And Sennheiser also provided headphones, microphone to raffle off. And Paul Mitchell has some great hair care products for us. And there's like a little music biz besties pack over there. So please check them out, and please visit us on our website. You can sign up for our newsletter to learn about more events and things that we do, thewomen.com. And we'll be out and about chatting and drinking and having a bite. So thanks a lot. Oh, yeah, the raffle. But
We're going to do the raffle at the very end.
at the end, yes, we'll do the raffle at the end. So buy some tickets. Go see Bonnie and her volunteers there. I'm sorry for forgetting your name. Say your name. Naila. Beautiful Naila. Go buy some tickets from her. She really wants you to. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Let's chat.